You're welcome here. You're welcome here. You're welcome here at the Maple Podcast. You're welcome here. You're welcome here. You're welcome here at the Maple Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Maple Podcast. This is Bill Price.
And I'm Hollis Biggs.
And we're the podcast for board game beginners. And today we're going to have a theme of randomness and kind of how I think it works and maybe doesn't work in some cases. So we've got kind of two extremes. One's kind of card randomness, one's dice randomness. And the first one we're going to talk about has been a long time coming. I believe we have mentioned it in multiple episodes, including our very first episode. And so it's about time we went ahead and reviewed it.
It was also about time that I played it because, quite frankly, I've talked about this game. I knew about this game, but I had never actually played it until we did together about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
And I had played it a couple times, but several years ago. So I was not a fan. Spoiler. And so I wanted to play it again with more of an open mind, more of an appreciation for trying to sort of see it for what it was meant to be rather than kind of what my expectations were. So needless to say, that game is Exploding Kittens.
Exploding Kittens we played it with 5 people, 6 people maybe.
Six people. I think, yeah.
And it was...
maybe 7.
Potentially.
Yeah.
So it's meant to be played, in a solid group setting.
This is the party pack edition, so it's actually for 2 to 10 players. I think the regular edition is like 2 to 6 or 2 to 7. But it is the same game with 1 or 2 of the expansions put into it, and some extra cards for a higher player count.
Yeah. They also indicate that it takes 2 minutes to learn and 15 minutes to play. I think there was a little bit of a learning curve because I wasn't sure what to expect with the cards. There are so many what feel like random cards in your hand that you've got in front of you. Some of them are, have funny names, like a Cattermelon. It's a cat that looks like a watermelon, so pretty aptly named there. There's the beard cat, there's a feral cat, there's all kinds of cards, and then cards that have actions that I'm going to say is fairly similar to almost like Uno.
Kind of.
Like there's a nope card that would be almost
like
feel like a reverse card.
Right.
An attack card, which feels like a draw 4.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, it is, and it is a random game that in essence, and I can really explain this very quickly. Everybody has a hand of cards, and then there is a draw deck, and in that draw deck there is what's called an Exploding Kittens card for each player -1. So you're playing with 7 people. There's 6 Exploding Kitten cards in that deck, that draw deck. Shuffled up, and then you have cards in your hand, and every turn you play cards from your hand, which sort of manipulate something, maybe make somebody else draw a card, or let you just complete your turn without drawing, or whatever, and then you end your turn by drawing a card. If you draw an Exploding Kitten card, you're out of the game, you lose. Unless you have a diffuse card, which there's a handful.
A small handful.
Yeah, everybody starts out with 1, and then there's a couple, depending on player count, there's a few in the deck. But and then if you have the diffuse card, then the Exploding Kitten card gets shuffled back into the deck. So realistically, it is 100% random on who's going to draw that card. And I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of agency as far as like, what can I do to make to lower my chances of drawing a card and increase other people's chances. And I guess there are some, and I will give this that there are some. There are things that that make other people draw more cards. There are things that let you not have to draw a card and things like that. So there's a little bit of agency there, but a lot of it is, take a look at the top 3 cards in the deck and put it back in any order. So you kind of get to determine who gets the shaft, which it's not really my kind of game, but I'm trying to appreciate it for what it is, which is just a fun, laughing, funny kind of experience for Uno players.
I think Bill has alluded to this in a handful of other episodes, but Bill does not like a very specific type of game, which is a game. How have you described this? It's a game where
take that game.
Yes, thank you.
Where you play a card and you're like, here, take that. I got you.
And there can be some fun in that. Like, I don't mind those type of games as much. With Exploding Kittens, one thing that both of us don't particularly care for is the fact that you can be out on your very first turn.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that is not your very first, but maybe your second turn. And then you've got to watch, 15 rounds or 10 rounds, whatever, of your friends playing a game. And it's not a lot of fun to just watch the entire time when there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. You can't get yourself back in. No one can loan you a cat to get back in.
Right.
And so that's a little tough.
Yeah. Games with smaller games like this that have player elimination, if they're short enough, like Love Letter. Love Letter has player elimination, but a hand lasts like literally a minute and a half or 2 minutes or less. So you're sitting there watching, a couple turns, but it's like a minute. This game, if you're out, then you could literally just be watching all your friends play a game for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so player elimination in longer games like this is also another kind of thing that I personally sort of try to avoid. Some people really like it because they like that whole, like, it's counting down to the best 2 or whatever. I kind of like to save that till the end. Everybody shows down and who did the best. But, that's just me. That's personal preference. But, yeah.
But it is an extremely portable game. I like the party pack in particular just because we can play up to 10 players. And it's truly just, I'd say, it also makes a noise when you open the party pack box.
Yeah, it plays music.
I don't know that you'll hear it when I open this, but you might be able to. But it's kind of fun. It's something. But it's basically just 2 decks of cards.
Yeah, that's all it is. It's 2 decks of cards. It's random. And my final verdict really is that I did enjoy our playthrough.
Sure.
I still have some complaints about it as a game, maybe as an activity versus being a game.
Sure.
But everybody seemed to have fun. There were a lot of laughs. The people reading the cards for the first time. I don't think it would keep that sort of thing through multiple plays as you see the cards and kind of it becomes more apparent that it's really just kind of a Russian roulette sort of game. Which it is. I mean, that's what they call it. It's like the card game of Russian roulette or what have you. And I appreciate it more for what it is than I used to. I'm still not giving a very good score. I'm going to give it a 5. I would play it if somebody really loves it and is like, I really want to do this, but I would never openly suggest. In fact, if I knew somebody really liked it, I might actually hide it. Unless they asked specifically if I had it.
I think that is probably a pretty solid score on this one. I was between a 5 and a 6, but I think you're right. The portability for me tends to lend itself to a little higher score. However, I think you're right. This is not one that I'm going to be reaching for very often. Would I play it with new groups of people? Sure. But if I want someone that doesn't normally play board games to like board games, I don't know that this is the game to start them off with.
I agree. I also do like this being up to 10 players because I feel like this could be an activity you could just bring with you. A bunch of people, maybe they don't play games, but you're not trying to get them into games. You're just trying to pass time and have fun. This might be a decent fit for that. But this is not like going to be a board gamer's favorite game, most likely, because of the randomness. And I do like random. And going into the next game, which is dice randomness, it's actually based on Yahtzee, which, can you think of anything more random? But it does it in a very different way, where I feel like you have a lot more agency and a lot more choices on how you play the game and kind of what the results are. You want to talk about King of Tokyo?
So King of Tokyo was a fun one. Like you said, it is based on Yahtzee. So there are, let's see, we've got 8 dice total.
Yes. So, six of them normal ones, and then 2
primarily
that you can get like bonus dice for.
Yeah. So you are basically using the 6 dice to determine kind of what your course of action is. You're each kind of given a
everybody gets a kaiju.
Kaiju, thank you.
Right, so like there's the city of Tokyo and Tokyo Bay on the board, and everybody's these giant kaiju monsters that are kind of based on, like Godzilla and King Kong and things like that. But obviously they don't have the IP for those, so it's like
there's a Kraken, there's a Cyber Bunny, there's
the King, and stuff like that. So and there's a Mecha Dragon, which is like Mecha Godzilla, and there's like a alienoid, like a big invaders from Mars kind of kaiju, and there's a whole bunch of them, and they're really neat. And they all are pretty much, I mean, they're the same. There's no difference really between them.
There's no advantage to one over the other in particular.
And everybody has these dials, these health dials. You start out with a certain amount of health points, and every turn you roll dice Yahtzee style. So there's 6 dice, and there's numbers, there's hearts, there's attack icons, which are like claws, and you rolling them, and just like Yahtzee, you can re-roll 2 more times, so 3 rolls total, keeping what you want, and coming up kind of with your final grouping of 6. Hearts give you life back. The claws let you do damage to other players. The numbers, there's 1, 2, and 3. If you get groups of those, then that can allow you to get cards and like powers and stuff, and move up on things, tracks, and things like that. And there are cards that let you do stuff like attack other monsters, or regain health, or move out of Tokyo, or what have you. And kind of the fun strategy part of that is, if you are in Tokyo when your turn starts, and there's only 1 spot for Tokyo, with more than, I think with 5 or 6 players, you also use Tokyo Bay. Which so if you are in Tokyo or Tokyo Bay when your turn starts, you get 2 victory points, which is ultimately, the game is about victory points. You win by getting to a certain number of victory points, or being the last kaiju alive. And so the problem is that whoever's in Tokyo or Tokyo Bay, and then outside of Tokyo, the damage that you do only happens to people that are not where you are. So if you're in Tokyo and there's another player in Tokyo Bay, and you're playing with 6 players, and there's 4 people outside of Tokyo, every single time they do damage to you. Whereas when you do damage, you will do damage to each of them, if you can stay in Tokyo. Now, if somebody does damage to you, you can elect to move out of Tokyo, which protects you a little bit, and it also lets you heal yourself with heart die. If you're in Tokyo and you roll hearts on your die, you can't heal yourself. So,
which I found was very critical, and that's what ended up doing me in.
Yes.
But I learned what I'm going to do differently next time, which is just really rack up heart points.
Mm-hmm.
I need those life force, because that was something that I didn't anticipate really kind of dying so quickly in the game. And then you're kind of out. You don't really come back. But it doesn't feel as intentional as it did in Exploding Kittens.
Yes.
So just to clarify,
in this
this is a little different.
Yeah, you're not picking somebody to pick on.
Correct.
You're doing damage to everyone who's not where you are. And so it feels much more like, hey, I'm just doing this and everybody's feeling it. You're playing the game, you know, and I really, really like that. You can buy cards that have special powers. There's also
And the
tiles.
special power cards are kind of where you can earn some of those like life points back.
Mhm.
So, for example, like one of these says, you know, at the start of your turn, if you have fewer than 3 hearts, gain 2. Or you can use this one that says all other monsters lose 2 hearts. So,
Yeah, that's pretty
yes,
sweet.
kind of an attack, but not one that people can't come back from normally.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. I thought the dials were kind of interesting to use. That I would say was I asked a lot of questions while playing to make sure that I was supposed to be like moving my dials at a certain point. With those either health points or the victory points. So just like to confirm, like, ooh, how many hearts was I supposed to lose again? Ooh,
Right.
how many? What's my total right now? So, keeping track of that was fairly easy with the cards themselves or with the dials themselves. But I did ask a lot of questions, so probably tortured Bill a little bit with that one.
Not at all, not at all. And it's a pretty quick game too, all things considered. I don't think it took much longer than Exploding Kittens to play, even with the large group. So, and everybody kind of knows Yahtzee, so it feels intuitive. It's pretty easy to explain, and it's definitely a family weight game. It's not, but I have found that it's very popular in board game circles too. Like with really kind of hardcore board gamers, they like this. There are a lot of more complex games that use this Yahtzee style, the Yahtzee rules, that kind of go above and beyond what this game does. And this is a great blend of complexity and familiarity while still staying strategic. There are choices. Every time I play this game, yes, it's random what I roll. And yes, rolling something or not rolling something I need can absolutely do me in. But I have options every time I roll. What do I keep? What do I re-roll? And then ultimately, what I end up with, that shapes kind of my strategy as far as, do I pull out of Tokyo? Do I, stay in and try and get more points the next time? Do I, what kind of a route do I take in this? And I just felt like with comparing this random-wise to Exploding Kittens, I just sort of felt a lot of times like no matter what I did, it all just depended on what card I draw. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I don't know if that feels, I don't think that feels great.
Dice feels like you have more control.
It does.
Even if you don't, it feels like it. And the fact that you get to re-roll twice, kind of Yahtzee style, gives me a feeling like, okay, wait, I can actually control my destiny here. Like, okay, if I just shake these dice hard enough, I will for sure get, 5 hearts in a row, or I'll get exactly what I need. Rarely does that happen, but that's how I feel. And that's what's most important, is how I feel.
That's true. So this one is, I'm going to go right into a rating here, and I'm going to kind of give it a couple of different ratings. If I know I've got 6 people, me and 5 other people, and I know we've got some space, and I know we don't have to worry about it being too loud or anything, this is probably one of the very first games that I reach for. This is worked out so well with multiple groups. As far as if that scenario happens, this is an 8 for me, without question. Otherwise, it works fine at 4. It works well at 5. 3 is kind of where it sort of doesn't work as well for me, because there's a lot less strategy as far as going in and out of Tokyo. You only have to wait 1 turn, 2 turns. So I don't think it works nearly as well at 2 or 3, but at 4, 5, or 6, this is a great game, great family game, and very beloved in the community.
I think that was a really great way to describe it. If you have the space for it, and if it's not too loud, I would not rate this high in a portability standpoint, because it does take up some space. It does have a board that you're kind of working off of and like lots of little pieces. However, I thoroughly enjoyed this game, and I think you're right. This is a great one if you're in a mid to large group of 4 to 6 people. So I'm going to give this a 7 points off for portability.
Yeah,
so.
Fair enough. That's it's still a great game. That's a big recommend from us for King of Tokyo.
Yeah.
Disclaimer: we actually played what's called the Dark Edition of this game, and that's actually what'll be up on Instagram. So it won't look exactly like if you go to buy King of Tokyo, it won't look exactly like this. But it's the exact same game. It just has some different artwork in it to kind of adult it up a little bit. The regular version of King of Tokyo is a little brighter, maybe a little more cartoony, but still the exact same rules, exact same everything. So it's the same game, but that's just to be upfront. That's the edition that we played. So, so that was the Meeple Podcast Random Edition. So.
These were some good examples. I think both card randomness and dice randomness are 2 fun concepts, and I can't wait to try some more. I would prefer the dice random games, but that's a personal preference.
No, I'm a sucker for dice, but I really like smaller card games. But we will absolutely be looking at plenty more dice games, plenty more card games, and some board games. Which
always a good time.
They're all board games, but So if you want to get a hold of us, or if you have a game that you really like that you want us to check out or at least talk about, you can get a hold of us at. You get it on Facebook at The Meeple Podcast. You can find us at The Meeple Podcast on Instagram. And you can email us at themeeplepodcast@gmail.com. And, of course, themeeplepodcast.com, where you can find pictures.
Our ratings.
And just our ratings. Not our ratings, like our ratings.
Spot on there. Spot on.
Everything's PG.
Absolutely.
No R ratings from us. But it'll have our ratings and every game that we talk about on every episode in case you ever need to reference that. So
awesome.
All
Thanks
right.
for listening.
We'll see you next time.